train come a-rolling, clickety-clack. Everybody trying to get a ticket to go, but those who go, they don't come back. They're going way down, Hadestown, way down under the ground.
You know what, Levi, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this really is a pleasure for Converge to be here, opening night. But this is an iconic character. Hermes is, people kind of know about this archetype, but tell us what you, Levi, what you bring to this role.
Thank you for the question, because I got to see Hadestown just before COVID. Took all theater away from us, right? And I was hit with this experience. And I sat back and I said to myself, not only is this in my world as someone who has been a singer-songwriter for years, who has had music in a lot of primetime television shows, but like in seeing the journey of Aeneas creating something and then turning it into a theater piece was very interesting to me. But specifically the role of Hermes, I think beyond the fact that these melodies, the fact that they are born from blues and gospel and stuff that as, a Tennessee boy is a part of my DNA, but it was also the message that he speaks of. And I think that if you look deeply into what Hermes is trying to accomplish, he's trying to tell us that we may repeat this story over and over, just like we repeat the same men in our life or the same relationships or the same thing. But when we stop and realize, well, what are the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings at work within me that keep attracting the same thing over and over again? And that is woven throughout this entire piece so deliberately that I'm surprised it's not even, it's not more often a topic of the conversation. And that's Hermes' role, to take you through that journey. And then when you see the disappointment of it, say, well, but we sing it again. We still live life. We still call that number that he left. We still go on that first date. We can't help but live, but express, but put ourselves out there. But let's take a deeper look and maybe we can create a situation that's better for us,
Absolutely. So I know that when you guys do these acting, sometimes it's like method acting, but other times it's like you really relate to that character.
Yes.
So how do you personally relate to Hermes?
That's a deep answer too, actually. I've been a student of Hermeticism for a while, and so it was interesting that I got to be cast as the role of Hermes. Hermeticism is also very metaphysical, and that as a licensed spiritual practitioner, I found it very interesting that I would be handed someone who I actually had been reading about Hermeticism and about the ancient history behind who Hermes is considered like the father of, like different thoughts and stuff. So like I kind of like personally love that. But as far as, well, he's a trickster too. And so, you never believe that charming guy that you
It's in there.
Don't let me charm you.
It is in there somewhere.
You regret it. So.
Well, it's so
I'm not
funny.
saying that's me.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Look. You pulled it out for a reason, Levi.
He's like, look, the synchronicity put me in this spot to do this character for a reason.
Absolutely.
But like for real, there's something about this role that I really have always felt like if it came to me initially, I feel like this role was made for me, and props to a creative team who has allowed all of us to recreate our interpretation without tying our hands, because that took some boldness, especially when you've got something that's like 8 Tony Award wins. You kind of want to make sure the train keeps moving in the right direction, right? And so I thought that was pretty generous of them, actually. Yeah,
you're right too, because all shows don't do that, but I think a good show is going to really resonate with that particular cast, and find ways to bring it out of them. I mean, we're talking about this show winning 8 Tonys, but you yourself have won Tonys. I need you to tell us.
I do have one.
Yeah,
yes, I do.
I need you to tell us about that journey for you, and then for you, as an actor, that's such a huge feat for anybody who's giving their life essence to theater. I mean, that's the top echelon. Just tell us about a bit of that journey for you, and then how it manifests in, your work afterwards.
It was an unconventional experience in that I love new works. I love workshopping new material. I love originating characters. Most of my stuff that I've done in my 20 years of theater has been a lot of roles that maybe people have never seen because I was developing them, and you never know what's going to hit, right? I was developing this musical called One Red Flower by Emmy Award-winning director Paris Barclay. I actually want to check that. He might be the first Black man to win an Emmy Award for his. We should see if that's true or not. But he has been like since working with him in 2001, he's kind of became a mentor of mine. I had just come here to town here in LA, and he kind of took me in, saw what I could do, and we had this beautiful story about 5 guys in their 1-year tour of duty in Vietnam. We developed it in here. We developed it here. We developed it here. We went to the Kennedy Center, developed it there, until finally we were lined up for a theater on Broadway. And then 9/11 happened a month later. Stop. Right, but we weren't even in the theater yet. And at that point, the producers were saying, well, I don't know that the consciousness of this country can deal with a story like that right now. And so we all came back home to Los Angeles. And I thought, well, there was my Broadway debut. All of us guys, all 5 of us. And the producers of One Red Flower had gotten a script. I like to call it a little hillbilly skit. $1 Million Quartet, a story about Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash. And they knew that I played Southern characters well, and that I had a knack for that, being a Southern boy. But they heard that I had played the piano a little bit. Well, little did they know that like it is an extension of my body. I mean, I grew up not only full scholarship but classical, but I was playing Jerry Lee Lewis music at 12 years old at family reunions. Like so like what synchronicity, right? I never auditioned for the role once I did the first table reading, and I developed it from 2004 to 2010. So it took that long to really find the story and give it love and develop it. And I arranged a lot of music for the musical. And there we were, 2010. It was like unexpected. I didn't think against a story like One Red Flower. I thought, well, this thing's it's fun, it's cute, but it's not gonna really do it. And I didn't know it was gonna hit, and it hit, and it was powerful.
What a journey.
And life-changing. Yeah, and I thought it was a disappointment. I thought I would be forever disappointed that my Broadway debut happened, and then all of a sudden,
look at things happening when they're supposed to, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of other synchronicities, as you talk about One Red Flower, look right behind you.
Yeah,
There's
right?
one red flower literally right over your shoulder. Like, that's crazy.
That's
that is
crazy.
wild. Like, you're just all synced up, okay?
I love it.
That's great. That's really
So,
that's funny.
okay, you mentioned that people know that you play a Southern boy very well, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what advice would you give someone that's also a Southern boy, but maybe they don't always want to be typecasted as that?
I do think it's important to expand your horizons, for sure. And it's funny because when I first moved here from Tennessee, I like to do things that help me experience the spirit of a city. And so I came here because I was a singer-songwriter. I was like, I'm going to be about the labels. I don't care about this acting thing. But I had seen this magazine called Backstage West in the floor of this girlfriend. I was hanging out on her futon. Thumbed through it, and I'm like, oh, well, this is a audition magazine, and I know what a cattle call is, but never heard of this thing called Rent. So I was 169th, no headshot, no resume. Was like, I just want to see what this is like, what these highfalutin actors do when they get off the bus. And so I went, I was 169th in line, and I auditioned for Rent, for the role of Roger. And 3 callbacks later, they called me for the Broadway National Tour. And I was scared to death. So I hightailed it back home, and I got myself into some really great education. Auditioned for Warner Laughlin Studios, which classmates like Ryan Reynolds, Amy Adams, some amazing classmates that I had, and learned the craft. And I think because I dug my heels in and said, you know, instinct, talent is great. It may crack that door open, but to sustain a 20-year career in theater, You know, I mean, there's roles that I have created and originated, like Jack the Ripper, which is an entirely East Londoner, sort of like entirely different. You would not even know. It sounds is a rock opera, very operatic, not the way I naturally sing, but being able to do that and create that role, hopefully that'll surface one day. The musical's still out there, but it's like, the ability to do that is important, you know, and it scares me still. It takes risk, but at the same time, you have to trust that inner compass. As an actor, you have to trust your education and just, you know, damn what other people say. I'm going to dive into the pool and do it, you know, and it takes that boldness.
It does. I really appreciate that too, because, you know, I started in theater and acting when I was like 9, right? And I remember going to Howard University for theater, and I was around a lot of kids who were just trying it out. And I was like, you don't know about characterization? Like, what are you think you're cute, you're gonna get a role, you know? And just that thought of, you know, there's something that you have to really respect about the craft. And I appreciate you saying that. I think not enough people understand that, because there is a level of talent, obviously, but if you don't really hone in on the craft, you'll be missing out on some opportunities to expand upon that talent. So tell us about, you know, now this cast that you have beside you in Hadestown is just phenomenal. Obviously, we've been talking to your cast members today, and you know, this is something that is just it's just full of so much talent. You know, we were hearing earlier about how you guys all become a family. Tell us about your experience working alongside some amazing actors and actresses.
I think one of the most phenomenal things about this creative team is they really have celebrated diversity and inclusion. And it's not just for me as an LGBTQ, that they acknowledge my story as someone who went through 6 years of conversion therapy, who survived a gay bashing in Hamilton Park, New Jersey, who have been denied my employment from so many record labels when they found out about my sexuality. Like, my story's fine, but all stories are brought to the table with this. And we get to not only navigate that personally and begin to really flex that empathy and compassion muscle with each other and put ourselves out there to hear each other's story. But I think that it does build a level of respect that you don't get unless you've created an environment like that. You know, it's important because we are living education for other people. Your story is an education to me. Your story is an education to me. Mine to you, perhaps, you know? So, like, to be able to come to the table and be open and say, let's all celebrate what has gotten us here and the values that we now hold dear is very important. Yeah.
I was asking Nick and Morgan earlier, if you had to pick a city or state, what would it be in terms of Hadestown?
Like where to tour?
No, like,
Or
so
like-
in my opinion, if I were to be like, okay, in reality, a real Hadestown would be, I said Vegas because you kind of pick your own poison.
Can
like,
I say Memphis?
There you go.
Okay.
That's a great question, because it brings out something, right, that is so unique. And it's the same in terms of this show. We're talking about historic archetypal characters, but the way that the musicality and the show is put together, I just want you to tell us what you want the audience to walk away with, because there's so many lessons here, and we've been hearing some great answers from your cast members. And tell us, for you, you know, what is it you want the audience to walk away with after you put everything out there on that stage tonight?
First of all, you can't watch Hadestown and not remember that it is so influenced by Americana music. Aeneas is an Americana artist, so drawing from all of those influences that make roots music happen for America are going to find their way in it, and that's kind of how I have found my way. That was my invitation. That was my doorway into it musically. But at the end of the day, what do you walk away with? You know, Hermes as your narrator, as your conductor for the evening, would want you to realize that you actually are the divine authority of your own life, and that you can unravel any situation and discover the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings that are creating a limiting experience and know that you are infinitely unlimited because there is a universe that only knows to say yes to you. And when you lean into that, you can change the outcome.
You're going to have me
That
snapping a
download
Z
come
formation.
right
Come on now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
I love it. Well, she knows what my last question is going to be. If you had to describe your character in one word, what would it be?
She'll give you up to 3.
One word.
Three. I'll give you 2 extra lifelines if you need them.
That's a tough one. Gumbo.
Ooh. A plethora. Mix it in the pot.
You might get a crab leg.
But you're going to get a kick.
Yeah.
You don't get these vibes.
Gumbo, but you get a kick.
You're going to get flavor.
Oh my goodness, Levi, thank you so much. Clearly,
pleasure.
you know, this
My
is we
pleasure.
have so much time with you, but we just appreciate it. We can't wait to see you tonight.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for you to see it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.